Tonight on News 5 Live, Santa Elena man gunned down just before curfew. Who would want to kill the father of four? A whistleblower comes forward with more details on the land scandal allegations. The date for the reopening of the Corozal Free Zone is set. And have you noticed an invasion of mosquito-like bugs recently? What are they, and should we be concerned? We have the answers. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast. Good evening. Welcome to News 5 Live for Tuesday, January 12th. I am Marlene Cuellar. On Monday, just before the nightly curfew, Santa Elena resident Gabino Garnett Jr. was leaving his girlfriend's house in Esperanza Village when he met his death. Garnett Jr., a father of four, was mercilessly gunned down. He was rushed to the hospital, but he did not survive the attack. News 5 went west to find out more about the deadly shooting. Here's that story.
One time I hear a monka shotgun off and like I need me think that shot me did a quietest. And my mom, my cousin push open the window. When they push open the window, I got no down there by the tank. They holler my name, Kenya 2 times.
Those are the agony-filled words of Kenya Montejo. She's the girlfriend of 34-year-old Gabino Garnett Jr. Garnett Jr. was shot and killed in front of Montejo's house on Middlebank Road in Esperanza Village around 7:30 on Monday night. He was about to get into his car to drive it up to the house when the killer fired off a round of bullets, some of which hit Garnett and shattered his car's windshield. Montejo was inside her house when she heard the fatal shots. And when she looked out, a person dressed in dark clothing was running away from the scene.
I tell her, babe, that what? He said, they shot me. And I did pull up a shirt for see that word. But I swear, I see one shot here. But all of my side went up and I tell her, I did bawl, I did scream. I did hurt the person to go.
You didn't recognize the person you saw running away?
No, I just the ball. He the all I worry about. And I did tell he tell me just came in the hospital.
Garnett was rushed to the San Ignacio Community Hospital, but he died there shortly after. But who'd want to kill Garnett Jr. and why? Montejo says that she has no idea because Montejo never shared if he had any problems. And she says he was a law-abiding citizen up to his death.
So it's just unbelievable. Like that moment, like I just said, no, suppose I walk out here right out there. They catch her off guard.
Miss Montejo, you believe that person was perhaps watching him, following his movements, perhaps tracking him?
He have to.
Did he express to you if someone was maybe threatening him, if he had any problems, anything at all?
Nothing. So no, there is nothing. Nobody can be beef. There is no beef. I have to say nothing because if that may so be the case, why wait so long?
Do you have anything at all from his past? Do you think that someone would want to come back after him?
No. Because if anybody want to come after you for a past, it will be a long time.
It's a loss that Jermaine Garnett is still trying to process. Fighting back tears, he says a few months ago that someone made an attempt on his brother's life. But he never imagined that someone would make a second attempt and succeed this time around. Jermaine Garnett doesn't believe the two incidents are related, and he too doesn't know what led to this deadly shooting.
He had the bad times, I have the good times, but mostly I know he live a good life though, because mainly all the time we be there together, that two of us go have fun together, do everything together.
He never confided in you if he was being threatened, if there was maybe a hit out on his life?
No, not really. He never really confided because they may have an incident earlier that they may actually, the same spot, they may actually shoot at him, but he never worry about that. I talk to him and I tell him, like, you know, that your life, you can't go back there. At least bring her to him instead. Then he does come, because the first time I'm a fan cycle.
Do you believe perhaps the same people who come back after him?
No, I don't believe that the same people.
Garnett says that while his younger brother didn't always walk the straight and narrow path, he doesn't believe that it's a case of his past catching up with him. In March 2014, Garnett was arraigned for the stabbing murder of Earl Beiser.
Yeah, I know about that, and nothing. That happened a long time ago. That are not with that stuff. I tell you, everywhere you go, the situation in a different place is always different.
And you don't think that perhaps that past, that perhaps...
No, I don't think that are faster, because I may have know it already. It never may have happened here.
The Garnett family describes Gabino Garnett Jr. as a happy person who's always smiling, outgoing, and friendly with everyone. Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.
Former Minister of Works Rene Montero is at the heart of a land scandal in which it is alleged that a number of dubious transactions were conducted on his behalf through the Ministry of Natural Resources during his term of office. The latest revelation regarding a scheme that was purportedly ran by the then Cayo Central area representative and his family comes by way of a whistleblower who's come forward with details that seemingly corroborate what was disclosed by Deputy Prime Minister Cordell Hyde during Friday's House meeting. According to former employee Eddie De La Rosa, he is personally aware of numerous instances of doing business using the names and social security information of constituents and other individuals to acquire land without their knowledge. In one case, he asserts that information belonging to the deceased victim of a road traffic accident was used in the transfer of a land title. Earlier today, Eddie De La Rosa appeared on Plus TV's Rise and Shine morning show.
It's not funny because somebody died, but I laughed when I find out that what happened. They had a gentleman that got into an accident and he died a couple years or some years in the back, and they had land in Virginia, but guess what? The land is already transferred into some of their name, and the man don't dead.
Right. So, so what you are saying, Ed, did he? Let's start. Did he know that he had land in his name?
No.
So he was used. He was used, and land was in his name. And then eventually the plan would have been to move that land on. Is it once they get sale, or is the land eventually moved into? Do you know if the land comes eventually into the family or one of their holding companies, or if the land gets sold, or how does it move on? It moves on to who?
Well, I really can't tell you, Pastor Wade, on that, because I don't know, but they have land, like you heard it, they have land in companies, and this is just Rene Montero. No, I haven't mentioned for him, brother.
I want to talk about this person that died in the accident. So you are saying that he had land in his name, but he did not know.
You're right.
And then he got into an accident, died.
He died.
But after his death, that land still moved.
Like 6 months after he died, or I believe it's 6 months, the land got transferred. And signed the man's name, and so what they had to do, and the land didn't have somebody named no.
In another case, De La Rosa shares the story of an individual who later found out that his information was used to acquire a piece of land. He approached De La Rosa, who at the time was under Montero's employ, and asked him to relay a message to the former Minister of Works. He reportedly needed a job opportunity through Montero, or else he wouldn't relinquish the land title.
I'll tell you one case right now, and I can call his name because he gave me permission to call his name, and I have the evidence.
Go ahead.
A gentleman by the name Ervin Carranza.
Tell us briefly about the Elvin case.
He works for the Ministry of Works at the Belmopan station. He got hired. In that case, he kind of used me because he said, I heard they have land in my name, so Eric, can you talk to the man, make the man give me one lead job? And I did talk to the man. I tell him, Minister, this Palea say, if you don't give him one job, the man don't sign over the land. And the man gave him a job, man still working, but then still went ahead and transferred the man land without the man know. So I called the man a couple days ago. As a matter of fact, I talked to her yesterday, and I tell her what he had done. And he said, I'm willing to go to court. He said, boy, I want my land back. I never signed no paper.
In light of De La Rosa's testimony, who says he witnessed the corrupt activities within government ministries, the PSU says that people like De La Rosa need protecting. De La Rosa fled to the U.S. after he felt his life was in danger because he's now a whistleblower. The Public Service Union says that to protect people like him, the Briceño administration must table and pass the Whistleblowers Act to protect and reward whistleblowers. The PSU's first vice president, Dean Flowers, says that the union stands ready to support the minister and, by extension, the government of Belize in stomping out corruption within the public service.
The press release that we issued on Friday, of course, as you are well aware, stemmed from the minister's comment, in which we felt a bit hard done, whereby he said that public officers were not cooperative in exposing the level of corruption that he's uncovering within the Ministry of Works, and we felt we felt it necessary for us to clarify that public servants have in fact over the years tried their best, albeit covertly, to expose the corruption under under the previous administration, not only in the Ministry of Works, but in several other ministries. And we believe that if there is the introduction of legislation via a Whistleblowers Act, that perhaps, not maybe perhaps, but that definitely we will see the kind of cooperation that is needed, not only in the public sector, but perhaps even in the private sector and quasi-government sector, whereby people will feel a bit more at ease in coming forward and offering the kind of disclosure that is needed so that corruption can be nipped in the bud.
What sort of protection would you hope to see in this proposed Whistleblowers Act? Because the fear of being victimized by ministers and even CEOs and even ministers, henchmen, and cronies within the department is still a reality. So what sort of protection would you hope that this legislation would have?
Well, I'm pretty quite sure that there are several models available, but some of the key components that we would like to see in there is, of course, protection against victimization, that coming out and exposing corrupt acts by senior public officers or ministers, that your job security would be intact. We're also hoping that where security is concerned, your personal security, that there can be something in there that if there is the need for your own personal level of security to be opted, that you will be afforded that protection through the security forces.
The Public Service Union is also addressing complaints made by public servants regarding unfair dismissal. In its release, the PSU says that it received several complaints from public officers who have been terminated under the Briceño administration. The union says that it vows to challenge these terminations following the rules and regulations set out under the government workers' regulations. The president of the PSU has called the Ministry of Public Service to express concern since those fired say they have been politically victimized. First Vice President Dean Flowers says that he can't classify it as a mass firing because the union has only received a few complaints.
There has been some dismissals. I'm unable to use the term mass firings, and while that has been reported in some segment of the media, the Public Service Union represents members. By extension, yes, we represent all public officers in negotiations, but we have a set number of members that we represent. And the best information that I have is that we don't have mass membership coming to us saying that they have been victimized. And so I cannot say that our members have been victims of political victimization. Has there been dismissal? Yes. Have some of our members been affected? Yes. But the numbers that have come forward to seek our assistance, and who I want to reassure that we will be offering the necessary kind of assistance to ensure that they were treated fairly before dismissed. It's not a huge number. I want to be fair to say that we know for a fact that some of our members, as well as other public officers, may have breached the regulation where political campaigning is concerned, and in some cases, of course, not even reporting to work. I'm pretty quite sure you've heard about the stories about the ghost workers. So we are aware that some of our people may very well be aligned with these accusations.
PSU's Dean Flowers took the opportunity to weigh in on the good governance motion introduced in the House on Friday. The unions have always been a very vocal advocate for the signing of UNCAC and more stringent anti-corruption policies. Flowers says that legislation is what is needed to fight corruption, not a motion. He says the motion presented is purely symbolic.
What we saw in the House on Friday was the presentation of some motions, some good governance motions, which we welcome. But it takes us no closer to where we need to be, where we want to see bills. It's a good gesture, but it's the equivalent of presenting a manifesto promise that we will do it. I think that we're hoping that the new administration will display the kind of political will that is needed to start addressing corruption. And they pledged that they could introduce legislation in the first 100 days. And they also stated that it will cost little to no money to government.
Is it the union's position on the good governance motion that it's basically just that, a motion, a gesture, as you mentioned, and purely symbolic?
I think, without repeating what you said, that is what it is. It's merely a symbolic, and it, it yielded nothing. And I think that was debated by the members within the House, that uh, it really takes us no closer to addressing the issue of corruption, and in improving the system of governance in Belize.
Will you have to worry about getting your favorite imported milk or cheddar at the supermarket? We'll tell you what changes you can expect after the break.
Hello, friends. This is Dr. Bob Roberts with another
When the Minister of Agriculture, Food Security and Enterprise, Hassan Mai, told the House on Friday that he favored limiting import permits for certain milk and cheeses on the market, it caused quite a stir. Many took to social media to voice their concerns about not having access to their preferred products. Well, it seems the Food Security Minister took notice and has amended his earlier position. Minister Mai says that he is trying to save the small but thriving dairy industry in Belize. Today he told us that there is no intention to ban the popular Lala milk or any other imported dairy products such as cheddar or mozzarella cheese. Still, efforts must be made to ensure the survival of the local industry. Statistics show that the food bill for 2020 was up to $215 million. Of that amount, $21.8 million is spent on dairy products. Only $5 million was for Western dairies, the only local producer of milk and cheeses. The rest was imported from Mexico and Holland. Now, some prefer imported milk for its longer shelf life. This is also the main limitation to freshly locally produced milk. But before the general elections, Minister Mai says that there was a massive importation of dairy products. He says that while a permit is still being issued to the importer, it's about striking a balance.
Now you have Lala milk or other milks coming into the country from heavily subsidized sources, no GST, no duty, coming in to compete with the milk produced in Belize locally by farmers that pay high GST on fuel, high taxes on fuel, high cost of goods, and on top of that, the bottles that they use to bottle the milk, the half gallon and the gallons, these pay 15% GST and they pay duty. And they pay environmental tax. So you see the unfair in this game. We are still analyzing all information, the list of importers, the list of products, how much was brought in. So we are doing a thorough study to try to redirect the policy, so to speak, because it cannot be the norm. It cannot be continuous. We are killing our industries and our hard-working producers. We're not helping them.
Minister Mai confirmed to News 5 that Cabinet decided that the Corazal Free Zone will be reopened on February 1st. Its reopening was one of the manifesto promises of his party. The Free Zone had been closed for almost a year due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and thousands of persons became unemployed in the north. Initially, the Free Zone should have reopened before the Christmas holidays, but that did not materialize. This was because the Corazal Chamber of Commerce, which consists of business owners from within the zone, was unwilling to pay for the costs of retrofitting for sanitization measures, a bill of a little over $100,000. Minister Mai says that a task force to ensure minimum risks has been created.
So this gives the investors and the free zone management time to prepare all the facilities, the measures, the structures in place that will ensure that people are safe in the free zone. This means that OIRSA will be doing a part of the sanitation, is that you call it, the term. They will be doing the spraying of vehicles. They will be doing there's the walk-in tunnels where people will walk through. There will be people checking temperatures before they get in. And there will be, every store has to be well prepared with wash hands, soaps, and all these gels that they use that will prevent the disease from being spread or people to get infected with the virus.
When will the milling at the BSI factory at Tower Hill resume? It is all dependent on the weather conditions, and the rains brought on by the weekend cold front aren't promising. But this afternoon, Minister of Agriculture Hossamai says that it is expected to restart on Thursday or by the weekend. Last Thursday, milling was suspended because of the wet condition of cane fields and sugar roads. Delivery to the plant had been sporadic, and there was too much soil coming into the mills with the daily harvest. On Monday, a meeting was held with all stakeholders, and the decision was taken to resume later this week.
We had a very happy start for three reasons. First, the weather was out on our side. It rained every day. It stopped for 2 days. It rained for 2 days. So that was the main problem, one of the main problems. Two, the sugar roads, because it was raining, we had allocated finances to repair sugar roads, but the contractors could not get in. You saw the news where one of the turbines caught fire. That has been sent to Guatemala, I understand, to repair. There are other problems with the boiler. Boiler number 1 is leaking, I understand, so they are working on that. But essentially, the reason why we haven't started fully is because of those three reasons. The weather hasn't allowed us the sugar roads, the farmers in the cane, and the mill has some problems. So we are hoping that these days give them time to repair their boilers and to retrofittings, and at the same time we are working on the sugar roads, putting in culverts.
While milling is to resume within the next few days, Agriculture Minister Hossamai does not believe that the hundreds of thousands of sugarcane still in the fields will make it to the mills in time. Here's how he explains it.
Last year, the crop shrunk by 30%. Many people were not able to deliver what they believed they would have delivered because of the drought. This year, the rains have helped a lot. Farmers invested what they could in their fields. But today, the physical appearance of the fields is just astonishing. The fields have come back, and they've come back so good. My belief, and you may want to replay this future, my belief is that we will have a bumper crop, and that I do not believe that the mill will be able to absorb it. Last year we only had 890,000 tons of sugarcane. This year we will have 1.3 million tons.
2020 was a dreadful year for many, and we're all happy to leave that year in the past. But not everything was bad. Some good news from last year is that the number of dengue cases saw a significant decline compared to 2019. 1,163 cases were recorded, instead of the more than 8,000 cases the year before. That's a decline of about 86%. Also in 2020, there were no dengue-related deaths. Chief of Operations at the Vector Control Unit, Kim Bautista, says the reduction in cases is highly due to the restriction in movement during many months in 2020.
If you recall, 2019 was the highest number of cases on record, not only locally, but regionally. So it was the highest number of cases ever recorded. In Belize, we had some 8,359 dengue cases versus 1,163 last year. That's a 86% case reduction. I think that if you recall, we also had 10 deaths in 2019. We didn't have any last year. So things did improve with respect to dengue last year.
What may have been the contributing factors in that significant decrease in 2020? Did the restriction of movement for many of the months in 2020 played a key role?
Yes, there's several contributing factors. For the most part, we had the borders that were closed and remain closed. there was significant restriction in movement for some periods of time inter-district and also as a result of the curfew.
As we reported last night, the midges are on the move, swarming residences along the coastline. The Vector Control Unit has been notified of the midges invasion. Fortunately, these tiny pesky bugs are not seen as a public health hazard, but even so, the ministry sent out workers on an extermination mission.
Residents along the coast are being invaded by midges. There are pesky bugs that collect in the thousands, blanketing ceilings and walls.
Over the past days, the ministry was notified of the proliferation of some tiny insects, particularly in neighborhoods along the seashore and the coastline in general. So we did some checks and identified that the particular insect of concern is a type of midge, which there are several hundred species of midges, both biting and non-biting.
And that's the only threat they pose. Well, other than being a nuisance, these midges don't carry diseases and are not seen as a public health hazard. And according to the Chief Operations of the Vector Control Unit at the Ministry, Kim Bautista, these are non-biting midges.
What we're seeing is simply a high population of non-biting midges, as I said, mostly in along the coastal areas.
What has caused this? Because this isn't an yearly event, right?
No. What tends to happen is that there is always somewhat a fairly good population of midges, but I think that what contributed to the situation was after the high rainfall and the floods that we had over the past weeks, combined with the cold fronts. I think we've experienced multiple cold fronts. You still have a lot of breeding habitats for both mosquito and midges.
And these midges have a short lifespan, a few days, but even so, the officials are out spraying them to death.
We have certain zones within Belize City, Public Health Zone 7 to 9, which runs you from Marine Parade all the way up to about the Hallover Creek. And those are where those are the areas that are most infested. So we've had our guys out on the ground applying larvicides, and also we've adjusted our spray schedule with the ULV trucks to also provide some relief.
Reporting for News 5, Hipólito Novello.
People can't eat streets. What happens when the opposition throws those famous words back to the PUP ministers? We'll show you when we come back. Faber made his debut as the leader of the opposition during the sitting of the House on Friday. It is the first time he and his elected members are sitting on that side of the House. And while they may be few in numbers, they are strong in debating. Here's that story.
They are the few, the proud, the opposition. For UDP leader Patrick Faber and his only 4 winning candidates, Hugo Pat, Tracy Tager Panton, Moses Shine Barrow, and Denise Sister B. Barrow, sitting on this side of the House is a foreign feeling, but a feeling they will have to get used to for the next 5 years. Sitting next to Faber is his deputy, Pat of Corozal Southwest, and beside him is Panton Tager, who acts as a bridge between the experience and the inexperience. Both Barrows are at the end, with Sister B at the very end. It's 5 of them against the powerful PUP government of 26 members. But Faber says he does not fear because while they may be a few, they will be heard.
Madam Speaker, I place on the record our opposition to even putting this on. Of course, we are now not very strong in numbers, and what we say, we have to have, we say, which is why, Madam Speaker, I made the point, and since we're on governance again, that it must be that in this honorable House, and I have all confidence in you, Madam, that you will afford us and you will ensure that we get the opportunity to speak.
But in the next few sittings of the House, like on Friday, the only speaking they will do is by responding to corruption findings in the past government. And whatever those findings are, Faber says his members will not defend the actions of the then UDP government.
I remind people, Madam Speaker, I say it here again and I put myself on the record here, that what has happened under the last administration, don't expect this opposition to defend. There is some, I will go on record to say it again, there is some nonsense speaking that you're doing, and maybe I shouldn't say some, there is a lot. There is a lot. But the kind of thing that you expect that we will defend, wrong is wrong. The people of this country voted out the United Democratic Party because it thought that it was entangled in much wrongdoing, and that is why we are over here and you are over there.
And Faber says that as the opposition, they won't simply oppose for opposing's sake.
We're not only here to oppose where it is something good is happening, and you will hear us speak on something good in a minute. When it is the government is doing something good, then we'll be happy to speak on that.
But during its trial run, the opposition opposed mainly. They stood against the Brisenio's good governance motion, saying it's just a motion and nothing else.
Like everybody on this side, registering our great disappointment on the opposition who have said that they are prepared to work with us. And when we bring the first motion, where we're laying out the agenda of good governance, they stand up and criticize. Madam Speaker, I'm not a person to speak out when we speak in private, but since the leader of the opposition wants to do that, then let me point out to him. He was the very same one who said, we are not going to cooperate with you, the government, because you want to arrest Montero. That's what he said. Because they want to arrest Montero. The shame of this man.
Speaker,
the very same people. No. I am not yielding. I am not yielding, Madam Speaker. What's your point of order? What is your point of order?
The Prime Minister is lying on me.
That is not a point of order. You said it. You said it to Stuart Leslie, and I was there when you said it to him.
Reporting for News 5, Hipólito Novello.
And the sitting of the House wasn't without its sparks, and several flew across the aisle on Friday. Things did get testy between Leader of the Opposition, Patrick Faber, and Prime Minister John Brisenio. But the back and forth between Mesopotamia Area Representative Shine Barrow and Cayo South Area Rep Julius Espat was a bit more cordial. Barrow rose on the adjournment to speak on a matter of national importance. He spoke about poverty, and in doing so reminded the House that he made millions on his own in the United States. Barrow went on to tell the Minister of Infrastructure Development and Housing that the people can't eat streets. In response, Minister Espat reminds Barrow of the legacy that his predecessor, Michael Finnegan, left in Mesopotamia, a legacy that Barrow himself now has to carry.
I know get where I get by the former Prime Minister. I made my millions of dollars in the United States. You could check the record. I could bring all my contracts in here that amount to tens of millions of dollars that I made on my own, right? So I am not trying to be a career politician. I want what's best for the Belizean people. We not have a supplementary budget where it is $14 million for streets where we can't eat, right? The member from Cayo South and the member from the Prince of Caribbean Shores, they were very, very vociferous in condemning the last administration for streets where we can't eat, infrastructure to nowhere, roads leading to nowhere. Yet in the supplementary budget, there's $3 million more for streets where we can't eat than for human development that is dealing with poor people who need food and who need unemployment support.
We are not building roads to nowhere. We are trying to inject minimal resources into 80% of the roads that will possibly alleviate poverty. You have to understand the sugar roads is extremely important for the agro-productive sector, and if we don't find a minimal budget to be able to deal with that situation, the cane farmers will not be able to deliver their cane, and therefore we will have even more poverty. You have to understand that the situation of our national highways is where it is right now because of the neglect of the Prime Minister of the previous government. The roads have washed away. The contracts that were given were not priority. I applaud that you're standing up trying to defend a constituency that you say is poor. But that constituency has been under the leadership of your party for maybe over 30, 40 years. So how can you come here trying to justify the poverty that's in the Mesopotamia constituency when the past era representative of the Mesopotamia division was there for donkey's years with all the power in his hands? But I can understand. He's a family member of yours, so I understand that deep in your heart you are ashamed, but you can't say it. But I inherited his ministry that we found had a budget, a yearly budget, that did absolutely nothing. No houses were built in the Mesopotamia division. No infrastructure was done in the Mesopotamia division. No work was done at the ministry. No houses were built. So, come on, dude. Sorry, member from Mesopotamia, my apologies, Madam Speaker. Come better than that.
When the People's United Party was in opposition, its members bashed the then UDP government for its nepotism. But since the PUP is now formed government and political boards are being appointed, the now opposition UDP is turning the tables. The UDP is calling out the Briceño administration for what it says are nepotistic appointments to several government boards, including the SSB, BEL, and BWSL. The matter was brought up by opposition leader Patrick Faber during the sitting of the House on Friday.
Look at all the nepotistic appointments that have been made. And I believe, Madam Speaker, some of my other colleagues will probably go into details of all of this, but my friend from Caribbean Shores surely had grave issues with what he thought was nepotism in the last administration. And in fact, now we see him full circle abandoning what those principles were.
I was hoping that you would raise the issue of my sister-in-law, who is doing an excellent job as the DHS of this country. let me tell you something there, Minister, or Honorable Leader of the Opposition. Unlike what happened on your side of the house, Dr. Melissa Diaz-Musa has been working in the public service for the last 10 years, working her way, getting promotions even under your administration, sir, earning her way. It is called qualified individuals representing the best interest of Belize. I don't know if you live on another planet, but the DHS position is not one of these coveted, cushy, New York swanky apartment jobs like the ambassador to the UN, Lois Young Barrows, sir. This is the most difficult job today in country. That is work. I know you, again, another alien concept to you. It is not awarding the son of the Prime Minister a one-hit wonder with the title of music ambassador. You're missing it.
The insulting and offensive language by the member from Caribbean Shores is out of order. I sold millions of albums in the United States. When you were a DJ, you were a little boy playing my music, you and your brother did. So that type of insulting and offensive language is not in order in the house.
We're trying to get the best people that we believe that we could put together that can work as a group, as a unit. People that have experience in business and management, in finance, in the different industries. And we believe that by putting these people together, we can get these boards working again. I mean, no offense to the former Senator Juliet Timbrell. I mean, you have her in all of the big boards. We have no such person like that. We have put people that are qualified, that have experience and success in business and in the different industries to be able to be on those boards.
When we come back, we'll tell you about the formal agreement for death investigations between the forensics and a medical university.
Play, make a bingo for
On January 5th, Cabinet announced following a weekly briefing that authorization had been given to the National Forensic Science Service to enter into a formal agreement with Central American Health Sciences University. For years, the Forensics Department had been using the Belize Medical College Anatomy Lab to conduct post-mortem examinations on bodies found in advanced decomposition. But that informal arrangement was made official today with the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding. News 5's Isani Caetano reports.
The mortality rate for victims of COVID-19, particularly those who were confirmed positive after death, has prompted a formal agreement between the National Forensic Science Service and Central America Health Sciences University. The Memorandum of Understanding signed by both parties ensures that forensic autopsies can be done at this facility, amid growing concerns of exposure by employees at the Carl Huchner Memorial Hospital.
The need for a secure space to conduct forensic autopsies was highlighted last year because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We actually, in 2020, conducted over 60% of all our autopsies or post-mortem exams here at the Cashew Morgue. That was the first year, 2020 was the first year where majority of our post-mortems were done here. Prior to that, all the post-mortems were done at the Carl Huchner Memorial Hospital morgue. Obviously, because of concerns about staff becoming infected, about concerns with contact with COVID-positive cadavers and high traffic of individuals, we stood to benefit a lot from using this space at Cashew.
The Belize Medical College will also benefit from the MOU, since students will now be able to sit in on postmortems related to medical legal death investigations. For the Health Science University, access to fresh cadavers simply means cutting the cost of having to import from the United States.
In the past, we used to bring cadavers mainly from the US at a high expense and logistically difficult to bring, and then we have to return the body 1 or 2 years after. Now we have the opportunity of having fresh bodies in country where students can come look for us and participate eventually in a dissection of the human body. And so that was one of the main reasons why we were encouraged to enter into this agreement with the Forensic Services of Belize.
For the National Forensic Science Service, the idea of an official partnership came out of a visit from several experts attached to the International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs section of the U.S. Embassy. Together, they identified Cashew's facility as the most suitable for conducting these types of autopsies.
The morgue here, or what Cashew calls the anatomy lab, was identified as one of the more ideal locations to conduct autopsies, given the space requirements, given the facilities. So that was decided back in 2018, that was recommended. And as part of this institution, the Cashew efforts at becoming accredited, also as part of the National Forensic Science Service long-term plan of attaining accreditation. Such informal relationships need to be formalized, in this case as an MOU.
Administration Manager Keisha Belizaire says the partnership, despite not being legally binding, allows CASU to fulfill the requirements of its accreditation process.
One of our key components of our charter requires that we satisfy affiliation with government agencies. None more better than the Forensic Department, as Mr. Cho had rightly said, it provides educational expertise for students. So that's our number one benefit, as well as it satisfies our ongoing accreditation process.
Reporting for News 5, I am Isana Cayetano.
Ladyville police busted a taxi driver on Saturday night carrying a significant quantity of marijuana hidden inside a gas tank. The driver, Jose Maldonado, was not only operating within curfew hours, but he was also carrying a female passenger, Reina Gongora. Both are residents of Corozal District. Police say the shipment of drugs was destined for Belize City.
On Saturday, around 10:30 p.m., police, based on intelligence received, conducted a search on a taxi van in Ladyville. which led to the discovery of 38 parcels of suspected cannabis amounting to 21.4 kilograms. Inside the van at the time was Jose Maldonado and Reina Gongora, and they have both since been arrested and charged for possession of controlled drugs with intent to supply.
Sir, are these people from the Corozal district or the Disease district?
They are from the Corozal district.
And the suspected origin of these drugs?
An investigation is being conducted to try and establish the origin.
Is there any suspicion that it's from across the border, sir?
That is a possibility. We're looking at that, and it was based on intelligence that was obtained.
Can you describe for us the packaging? You said it was, if I'm not mistaken, a gas tank?
It was parcels wrapped in plastic.
A feud between rival gangs in Ebony Streets area has left William Archio recovering from gunshot wounds he received on Friday night. Archio was rushed to the KHMH where investigators would later catch up with him while he was receiving treatment. He told them that while standing on the street, a vehicle appeared on the scene. An unknown person alighted and proceeded to fire multiple shots at him. Police did not disclose the extent of his injuries. However, he remains at the KHMH in a stable condition.
Police responded to a shooting incident on Ebony Street. Upon their arrival, they received information that someone had been taken to the KHMH. They visited KHMH where they found William Archila, 25 years, with gunshot injuries to the body. He reported he was standing on Ebony Street when a car came. A person exited and fired shots towards his direction, causing the injuries to him. He is now at the KHMH in a stable condition at this time.
Sir, do you all have any information on the origin of this particular shooting? Was this random chance shooting, or was this connected in any sort of prior incident or any sort of gang-related crime?
Yeah, we believe it is related to gang activity in that area.
Care to give us any further details on that?
He is from that area and he was targeted by other persons from another area.
Is he someone known to police?
Yes, he is known to police.
Still to come, if they can't play matches, how are football athletes to stay in shape? We'll show you the FFB's solution. Even football training is going online. The Football Federation of Belize announced today that it is investing $18,000 in developing its young players. The money is to pay for the enrollment of 180 players from the U15, U17, and U19 teams to the Evo Soccer program. It's a year-long online program that players access through an app. Dwayne Moody was in virtual attendance of the program's launch today.
With the COVID-19 pandemic, most sporting activities have been put on pause as they are considered potential super spreaders of the deadly virus. The Football Federation of Belize is trying to keep the various national teams engaged in a safe environment, so some 150 youth football athletes have been selected to participate in an online training program. Evo Soccer is a 52-week evasion program that focuses on individual attacking skills.
The FFB Secretariat has been looking for ways in which to restart football, and the Secretariat has been busy at work thinking outside the box. One of the recommendations made to the FFB by our technical director, Mr. Philip Marin, and one which was supported by the executive, was the portal for the Evo Soccer, which is a great app that will engage all our players at the different levels in keeping their physical and mental football activities alive.
Evo Soccer will provide us with 150 Evo Soccer online evasion codes for our players. We're talking about 150 players, which are the outside players, the defense, the midfields, the forward. Also, they will provide us with 20 Evo Soccer online codes, which will be for the coaches. As mentioned, coaches will be the one to monitor our players using the platform.
The virtual program was created to assist with individual skill development in the sport by decoding the game.
This platform provides over 478 tutorial videos, 6 resources to develop the people as players, but more importantly as people, looking at lifestyle, diaries, but the main focus from a technical aspect is their individual development in 1v1 scenarios. Now, once accessed into the program, the students will access over 52 ways to beat a defender in 1v1 scenarios.
The app provides knowledge and skills to players of all ages and abilities, and since Monday, the young athletes have been accessing his or her weekly drill.
It gives us courage to train harder and work harder because everyone wants to be on the national team. So in order for you to be on the national team, you need to prove yourself. And with this platform, it's kind of you need to prove and improve into your training. So you not only when they give you a certain drill to do, you will do the task, but even you will put in overtime in your workout just because you want to be better at your skills.
And I believe this initiative will help us so much that even though it takes pretty much 30 minutes out of our time on a daily basis, being that we go to school, we have to attend for school, we have to do our stuff at home. It's one way to keep us healthy and one way for us to improve our skills and learn discipline in a way.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
And that's the news. Tonight's broadcast is available in text at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at News 5 Live. I'm Marlene Cuellar. Thanks for joining us. And from all of us here at News 5, please remember to wash your hands, keep your social distance, and stay safe. Good night.